A lot of young women dream of being featured on Vogue. For me to be given this opportunity is incredibly exciting.
In August 2025, Town & Country magazine, a publication approaching its 180 year of continuous print, put a 20-year-old Filipino tennis player on its cover. Alexandra Eala hadn't won a single senior WTA title. Her left shoulder was injured. Her world ranking had slipped to number 70, and the oldest continuously published general interest magazine in the United States had just told the world she was already a cultural icon. To understand what that decision actually meant, you have to understand what Town & Country is. This wasn't a sports publication. It wasn't a regional lifestyle magazine. Town & Country was founded in 1846 by Nathaniel Parker Willis and George Pope Morris, the same year the Mexican-American War began. For nearly 180 years, the Hearst Corporation publication had chronicled the social diaries of the North American establishment, debutante balls, inherited wealth, old money lineage. William Randolph Hearst acquired it in 1925. Its cover selections have always been a statement about who belongs in elite cultural conversation. When Town & Country placed Alexandra Eala on that digital cover in August 2025, it wasn't her first time in front of a camera. She'd appeared on Vogue Philippines in November 2022 and Tatler Philippines in January 2025. But this was different. This wasn't a domestic publication celebrating a national hero. This was an American institution approaching its 180 year, choosing a 20-year-old from Quezon City who hadn't won a senior title, who was physically compromised, whose ranking had been sliding. Eala herself had described fashion as something that allowed her to feel confident while breaking barriers between athletics and style. But the editors of Town & Country weren't selecting a fashion personality. They were making a claim about the future. That claim created a problem. When a magazine of that authority puts an athlete on its cover before she's validated the placement, it doesn't just celebrate, it creates a public ledger. Every match from that moment becomes a line item. Either Eala closes the debt or the cover becomes an artifact of overreach, and the timing made that ledger heavier. Her ranking had climbed to number 56 as a career high at the time, before the shoulder injury at the National Bank Open in Montreal forced her out of major tournaments and pulled her back down to number 70. The momentum that had generated the cover interest had stalled at precisely the moment the cover was published. Now, the conventional sports narrative would pivot here to resilience. But look more carefully at what actually happened, and a different reading emerges. Town & Country didn't celebrate Alexandra Eala despite the injury, the slipping ranking, the absent title. Whether the editors intended it or not, they placed her career under a specific, measurable, and very public pressure. And what followed wasn't simply recovery, it was settlement. But this wasn't the end of the pressure. It was the beginning of the accounting. March 2025. The WTA 1000 Miami Open, Eala entered as a wild card ranked number 140. For context, a wild card at a WTA 1000 event doesn't expect to reach the final. A wild card expects to gather experience, collect a win or two, and exit quietly. Eala did not exit quietly. In the round of 64, she faced Elena Ostapenko, a French Open champion. Down 0-4 in the first set, Eala clawed back to take it in a tiebreak. In the round of 32, she defeated Madison Keys, a former U.S. Open champion, 6-4, 6-2, her first career win over a top 10 player. Then came the quarterfinals. World number 2, Iga Świątek, stood across the net. What the match statistics from Miami revealed was something precise. In the first set alone, Świątek produced 19 unforced errors. Eala exploited every one of them, taking the set 6-2, then closing out the match 7-5 in the second. She became the first wildcard in WTA history to defeat 3 major champions in straight sets at a single tournament, earning $332,000 and securing her place in the top 100. And that's when things shifted. The Town & Country cover had been published against the backdrop of a number 70 ranking and a shoulder injury. Miami had just redrawn that backdrop entirely, but Eala still hadn't won a title. The ledger wasn't settled. The most important line item was still outstanding. September 7th, 2025. Guadalajara, Mexico. The WTA 125 Open. By the time Eala reached the final, her body had already absorbed more than most players handle in a full tournament week. A rain-delayed schedule had forced her to play 2 complete matches in a single Friday. A 3-set comeback over Varvara Lepchenko, 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, followed immediately by a straight sets quarterfinal win over Nicole Fossa Huergo, 7-6, 6-2. Back-to-back, same day. Her opponent in the final, Hungary's Panna Udvardy. The final opened the way critics might have written it. Eala dropped the first set 1-6. In those 60 minutes, the story looked like it was tilting toward a very different conclusion. Then in the second set, serving to stay in the match, she found herself at 15-40, then 0-40, 3 consecutive break points against her. 3 consecutive times Eala held. She forced a decider. She won it 6-3. On September 7th, 2025, weeks after Town & Country had declared her a cultural icon before she had a title, Alexandra Eala became the first Filipino player in history to win a senior WTA singles title. Her ranking moved from number 75 to number 61. The ledger had its first major entry, but it wasn't the final one. What happened next changed the situation in a way that nothing about the Birmingham draw would have suggested. Entering the Lexus Birmingham Open in June 2026, Eala arrived as the top seed. She'd reached a career-high ranking of number 29 in March 2026. In December 2025, she'd won gold at the SEA Games in Thailand, ending a 26-year gold medal drought for the Philippines in women's tennis. Grass was no longer unfamiliar territory, but the final opponent was Nicola Bartunkova of Czechia. And here's the detail that the scoreline alone won't tell you. Entering that final, Alexandra Eala's career record against Czech opponents stood at 0 wins and 12 losses. 0-12. Every time she'd faced a player from Czechia in her senior professional career, she had lost. Bartunkova was the 5th seed. She was also Eala's former doubles partner. The final stretched to 2 hours and 38 minutes. Eala dropped the first set 5-7. In the deciding third, she built a 5-3 lead, then watched it disappear. Bartunk broke back to level it at 5-5. 2 games from the title, Eala was suddenly level again. Her 0-12 Czech record threatening to become 0-13 on the biggest grass court stage of her career. 8D. She broke back in the 11th game, and then serving for the championship, Bartunkova fought for 3 consecutive break points, 3 chances to deny Eala the title, to force a tiebreak to rewrite the afternoon. Eala saved all 3. She closed out the match. She won 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. The 0-12 record became 1-12. The Birmingham Open became her first championship on grass. Now consider this. Greg Rusedski, Andrea Petkovic, and Martina Navratilova had all publicly named Eala's serve as her primary weakness, lacking pace, reliability, and variation. And yet it was in the final game of a grass court title match, under 3 consecutive breakpoints, that the serve held. Here's what the facts assembled together actually force you to consider. Town & Country didn't predict Alexandra Eala's success. What that cover did, published when she was ranked number 70, injured and titleless, was create a specific public and measurable pressure. It placed her career inside a frame that only athletic performance could either validate or collapse. The cover wasn't a reward. It was a test delivered in the form of a celebration. And Eala's response was not the vague story of an athlete rising. It was a systematic, documented settlement of an account that a magazine opened on her behalf before she was ready. Miami. The Guadalajara comeback from 0-40 deficits. The Birmingham 11th game. 3 break points on the line. She didn't settle it with narrative. She settled it with specifics. Ostapenko in the round of 64. Świątek's 19 first set errors. Udvardy down 1-6. Nicola Bartunkova at 5-5 in the deciding set. The oldest continuously published general interest magazine in the United States selected Alexandra Eala before the evidence existed. Then Alexandra Eala went out and built the evidence point by point. On June 17, 2026, 10 days after Birmingham, Eala defeated grass court specialist Donna Vekic of Croatia in straight sets at the German Open in Berlin, 7-5, 6-4. She advanced to the round of 16. Waiting there on June 18, 2026, is world number 2 Elena Rybakina. The analysts who called out the serve, Rusetsky, Petkovic, Navratilova, weren't wrong about the diagnosis. The serve is still the open question. On grass, against a player whose own serve is among the most powerful in the women's game, the story stops being about narrative and starts being about physics. Birmingham proved Eala can hold under pressure. It confirmed the Town and Country cover wasn't an accident of editorial enthusiasm, but Rybakina isn't Bartung. And whether Alexandra Eala has genuinely solved the service vulnerability that 3 former professionals named publicly, that answer doesn't exist yet. Whether Wimbledon 2026 becomes the chapter that rewrites this entire story or the moment that reveals the ceiling of what Birmingham actually meant, we don't know, not yet.